Now in this video, we'll talk about the Git branch. Now this is a very awesome concept which is there in Git, and this is what makes Git one of the best version control system. Now what exactly branching are, how do we use it, how do you merge two branches, and what may go wrong when you merge two branches. We'll try to understand that in the next few videos. So let's try to understand what is branching first. And for that, we need to get back to our project. Now, this is what we were doing, right, on VS Code. We were able to get the source code from the GitHub, but then we don't want to work with this, of course, because even if we can do some changes, I will not be able to push on the remote repository. So let me go back to our repository. So I will say open recent Git course. Now, this is a project which we are working, right? And if you observe, we only have two files here, nothing fancy, just two files. And we got readme.md, we got user service text, okay, makes sense. And then the first thing you have to do is you have to always check Git status if everything is committed. You don't have anything in the unstage or modified stage. So you can see we have Git status, everything is clean, so we can go forward. Now, if you go back to your GitHub and if you see we are into Git course now, so basically if you see there are different things on the screen. One thing interesting is we have one branch. Now, what exactly this branch means? See, the thing is, whatever you do, okay, whatever work you're doing and you're pushing from your client side to server side or your remote repository, you have a branch and this is going into the main branch. Now, this is the name of the branch, which is main. And by default, when you create a project, of course, you do get either master branch or main branch based on which version you're using and which tool you're using. So you have to check this. What is your branch name, first of all? So for me, it is main. And you might have some other branch, that's completely fine. And there is no rule in the world that you should have only this branch name or that branch name. You can go with any branch name, that's your choice. But commonly we use main nowadays. And you can see we have one branch. That also means we can create more branches, right? So whatever by default you're doing, that goes into the main branch, right? And if you remember, when we were pushing the code from the Git client or the terminal to the server, we were using main as a branch. So we used to say git push origin main, right? But what if everything is working? So let's say you have a project, everything is working, and now you want to do some experiment. Now, one of the things you can do is, you can do experimenting. Let's say I'm happy with my code, which is working fine, and then I want to do some experimental code in this user service. Maybe I want to create an avatar for a user, and all these are experimental, okay? I'm not sure how will I do it. So I'm just trying to add this feature. And now let's say this is a very bulky code, and this is not the only file you're changing. Maybe you're changing multiple files, and you thought it will work, and now it's not working, okay? And then the release which you did to the users, the earlier version, it has some bugs, okay? And how will you solve that bugs now? Because the moment you make changes and when you push this to the server, or when you push this to the GitHub repository, how will you come back? Because you have updated your main. See, one thing you can do, you can go back with the commits. You can, we can actually time travel between the commits. So you can go back to the previous commit. But again, why to do all those things? What you can do is, whatever experimental feature which you are working on, or maybe your colleagues are working on, so you can work on a different branch. Now, this will not affect your main branch, okay? Example, something like this. You can just click here, and you can have an option here of creating a new branch. You can simply type, let's say, feature 1. Now, this is a new branch which I'm creating here, okay? So you can do it from here on the GitHub, or which is the best way, we can do it from the command line, right? So let's go back here and let me create a branch. So what I will do is, whatever changes I want to make, I will not do that in the main branch, I will do that on a separate branch. Now, first of all, we have to create a branch. So how do you create a branch? It's very simple. You simply say git. There are two options basically for branching. One is checkout. Now, this is the older one, and most of them are familiar and used to checkout. The new feature or the new command which we got is switch. I think this came in 2.23 version. So both are okay. If you want to use checkout, if you want to switch, that's your choice. Now for me, I feel switch looks much better than checkout, because sometimes you get confused with all these words, right? When do we use pull? When do we use fetch? When do we use checkout? So switch actually makes sense when you want to switch between two different branches, right? So, but then let's go with the older one, which a lot of people are familiar with. So you can simply say checkout, and you can mention the branch name. So the branch name is feature 1. Now, this branch is actually not created. Okay, so we don't have this branch yet. And if you type this command and if you say enter, you can say it will say the feature 1 did not match any files known to Git. So basically, we don't have a particular branch name feature 1. So we need to create one. So for the first time, you have to create a branch, right? Once the branch is created, you can switch using git checkout feature 1. So what I will do is I will just type this command once again, git checkout. Now, since we are doing this for the first time, if you want to create a branch, you have to say -b, or you can also say -f a branch, both works. And the moment you do that, it will create a new branch. Okay, so now the branch name is feature 1. And it also says, switched to a new branch feature 1. So basically now you have two branches. You got a main branch and you got a feature 1 branch. How do you know how many branches you have? So what you can do is you can say git branch, and you can see now we have two branches. We have feature 1 branch and we have a main branch. Now the question is, which branch is active? And that's where you will see this star. Okay, so star means this is basically a pointer, which means currently you are on feature 1 branch, and you can see it's also in green color. Now whatever changes you make will be happening in feature 1. Let me show you. Let's say I will do some changes here. Okay, so I'm adding new feature because this is experimental branch, right? So I will say create an avatar for user. Okay, I will say save, and imagine this is a lengthy code. I'm just typing one line, but yeah, it can be a lengthy code. So once I do that, what I can do is, of course, I can say git status, and you can see in git status, it says on branch feature. Okay, it's not saved. Okay, my bad. I was expecting some unstage, and then it was saying something. Okay, now it is, you can see I failed to save it, and now I've saved it, so it says modified. Now once it is modified, you have to say add, and you have to mention the file name, and then you have to say git. You have to commit this, right? So you have to say git commit -m, and you can send the message. You can say experimenting with user avatar. Okay, so basically we are doing experiment with the user avatar. That's what I'm saying here. And I will say enter. Now this is committed, okay? Now question arises, in which branch it is committed? It is committed in the feature 1 branch, okay? Main branch has no idea what you're doing with feature 1 branch. So you can imagine this is your main. So this was your last commit, right? Before doing the branching, this was your last commit, and main knows about this commit. Now what we did is we have updated some feature in a feature branch. Main has no idea. So that's a new commit, and only feature knows it. Feature 1 branch knows it. Okay, so this looks cool, right? Now, if I say git log, so you can see it will give you all the commits. This is a recent one. You can see this is a recent one. It says experimenting with user avatar. Just try to remember this. Now what I will do is I will just go back to the main branch and look at the code as well. So this is my working area, right? Look at this code. So the user service has one more line here, right? But if I move to main branch, how do I switch? How do I switch between these two? So you can say git branch or the git switch. So either you can use checkout or you can use switch. I'm using switch now. You can also use checkout. That also works. I'm switching to main. The moment I do that, look at the changes. That line actually went. It's because main has no idea about that new line. But if I go back to feature once again, you got the new line. So this is a beauty between when you work with different branches, right? In fact, if you have more files in the feature 1, it will also show those more files. And when you go back to main, again, it will come back. So that's how basically you create a branch and you work on it. Of course, you can create multiple branches. There is no limit. But what is the use of creating a new branch, right? Of course, if you can do something, you can do it on main branch. And if you're doing something new on the feature 1 branch, how will you get that data in the main branch? Again, that's a question we still need to answer. But we'll do that in the upcoming videos.